Hi, I'm Rhett, and today we're going to talk about the 8 critical roles of a cross-functional testing team. At the end, we'll also briefly talk about how do you grow into that team. This will be really helpful if you're just starting out, or if you see the need to expand your team and the testing that you're doing. And if you know that you need to grow your cross-functional testing team, I'll give you a few tips on how you can do that. The first of the 8 roles that the cross-functional testing team needs to have is the executive sponsor. The executive sponsor is so important because the executive sponsor is the person who fights your battles. This person is the one who helps get resources. This person is the one who helps make testing a priority inside the organization. If you don't have a large enough team to support the testing work, or if you feel like your testing team is lacking key roles, you may be lacking an executive sponsor. The second role that I want to talk to you about is the testing strategist. This is the person who helps define the tests. If you don't have a good testing strategy, and you don't have a good testing strategist to help define that strategy, you're likely going to have poor tests, and you're likely not going to get the gains you would otherwise if you had a good testing strategy. One of the important attributes of a testing strategist is they know how to communicate across the spectrum with the cross-functional team. They know how to talk to developers, they know how to talk to designers, they know how to communicate with stakeholders and product owners. This role is so important from a communication standpoint because the testing strategist is the person that brings the team together to get the work done. The third role that needs to be represented in every good cross-functional testing team is the analyst. The analyst helps implement the metrics that are used to measure the success of the test. The strategy that goes into understanding what data you'll need to look at after the test is finished is essential. The analyst needs to have the business and technical ability to understand that tracking key metrics will help give them the answers that they're looking for in the test. The analyst also looks at the test results when the test is finished to analyze the metrics, to understand the data and to make sense of it, to make sure that they're getting the answers in the test. And finally, the analyst is often involved in presenting the results to the client and those stakeholders that need to see the results. Every testing program is using data to make decisions, and a good data-driven program requires a good analyst to make sense of the data. The fourth critical role in your cross-functional testing team is the designer. A UX designer is essential because they help you create the experiences that you're going to test. There are lots of things you can change without a designer, but you'll never get the impact and the results you could have if you have the ability to redesign and rethink and recreate the experiences of your website. A good designer is essential in doing this, and a good designer will help you get better results because you'll get more creativity into the things and variations that you're testing. The fifth key role of a cross-functional testing team is the developer. A front-end developer that helps set up the testing program by implementing the testing tools and the analytics tools on the site, but they also help create the front-end code that is used to manipulate the experiences as you're testing. The developer will work with the analyst to implement the right metrics. The developer will work with the designers and the strategists to make sure that the variations that are created match the test design. The developer is essential because they help the experience actually go live. I've seen testing programs that don't have a front-end developer, and when they don't have a developer, they struggle because they try and create experiences that are constrained because they're not using development resources, or they'll try and develop themselves even though they're not a developer, and that creates a whole other range of issues. One of the companies I worked with had a testing strategist who was creating the code for the tests they were running, and when we came to work with them, we realized it was a bad situation. There was a lot of mistrust in the organization because that person had broken the site several times, and they were trying to fulfill the role of developer even though they didn't have those skills, and it just wasn't good all around. Another key role of a cross-functional testing team is your QA person. Good tests change the experience. But good tests that change the experience that have bugs or that break the site are bad tests. Your QA person is essential to be able to validate that before you go live with your new and brilliant experience you've created, there are no bugs in it, that it's good for the visitors, and it's not breaking the site in any browsers or any different screen sizes. The QA person is essential to make sure that good tests go out the door. Having a good QA person actually speeds up the testing in the long run because you're able to launch faster with the assurance that you don't have to break things. There are some organizations that will throttle their tests. They let fewer visitors get into the tests, and by doing that, they think they're being safe. What they really need is just more QA on the front end before they actually launch the test. And that's why the QA resource is essential. The seventh critical role that needs to be represented is the project manager. When you're going full steam with lots of tests and you have so many moving parts, different tests, different people, different strategies, all these things are coming together, the project manager is essential because that person helps coordinate this massive amount of work. They may be traditionally involved with the same things project managers always do, scope, schedule, and budget, but the process of an optimization program that's running at full steam with so many cross-functional roles represented needs that person who's a project manager that can come in and see and represent all the different pieces of the process and the different roles that need to do work on the process. Finally, the last role that I want to talk about is the product manager or the client that you're working with. The client has to be involved in the cross-functional team. If the client isn't giving input into strategy and results, then you're missing out on the relationship and the value that you can create when you're running lots of tests. If the client is part of the team, the cross-functional team is more effective and gets better results. So now that you know the roles that are represented that you need to have in your testing program, these cross-functional roles that work together to create amazing tests, sometimes you might be asking yourself, well, what do I do when I don't have all these people? Or what do I do when we have more of one and less of the other? The reality is that you have to improvise. The trick when you're starting out is that one person may have to fulfill multiple roles. There's a number of ways to combine roles of this cross-functional testing team when you're just starting out or when you're limited on resources. And our testing strategists on my team are fulfilling the role of the strategist and the analyst. They're the ones who are helping set up the test data and looking at the results of the test as well. So your developer will probably be your QA person. I've seen organizations that have designer developers where they design and they develop all at once. The project management role can often be fulfilled by the testing strategist as long as you have a good process in place and you're managing it with tools rather than with people. The key, though, is to understand that you have to have each role represented. Even if the same person is doing it, you have to have QA represented, not just development. You have to have strategy represented, not just analysis. You have to have a client that you're helping work with, an executive sponsor. Someone has to champion the testing team. As you start to mature and you hire for each of these roles, you'll also be able to mature in your systems, your tools, and your process. When you know you need to grow your cross-functional testing team, there are a few things you can do to help your team grow faster. First and foremost is you have to get wins. This is the solution to almost everything with a testing program. When you get good wins, people see the value. When you have value, then the organization wants to put resources behind that value to get more of it. So whatever tests you are running with your limited team, make sure they're good tests. Make sure the strategy is sound, make sure you know you'll get results, and make sure there's value in each test you're running. One of the best things that you can do to grow your team is to educate the organization about testing in general. If the organization understands that the testing team gives causal data, then they're more likely to want more of that. But they have to understand what causal data is in the first place. You have to educate the organization about the value proposition of your team. Help the organization see that you're helping product managers and marketers check their biases and their assumptions. Help them see that you can take a data-driven approach. When you help the organization see that you are different and how you're different, because they understand your value propositions, they're more likely to give you the resources that you need to grow the team. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you see that you really need a cross-functional testing team with all these different roles represented. It will be a struggle to create a role for every team if you're starting out, but it's worth it in the long run. Also know that you may need to combine roles. Some people may need to do multiple things to help the cross-functional team grow and to help testing grow in general. As you run into challenges with growing the team, look to your executive sponsor, look to good testing strategy and getting good results. And when you have those good results, you're more likely to see your team grow. Thanks for joining me today. If you liked the video, please give me that thumbs up, give me that like. And also, if you're interested in a free consulting session with me, go to my website at testingtheory.com and sign up for a free session. And we'll talk about your specific business needs, your business questions, and how we can get better results with your testing.